Hello everyone and welcome to the EVN Disrupt podcast. My name is Nejdet Zaduryan. I'm the editor of the creative tech section here at EVN Report. My guest today is Eisaian. Al is a serial entrepreneur who has built several companies in the United States and Armenia. Previously, he was the CEO of Intellineer, a company he founded, which also has a large presence in Armenia. He is currently the CEO of Cognaize. Al shared with us the products his companies are working on and the insights he's gained from his long career in the tech industry. Thank you for listening. Al, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. Al, I want to start a little bit by hearing your perspective on how the tech ecosystem has really developed over the last 20, 25 years in Armenia. I think you're one of the people who's really been at the core of it from the beginning. Can you tell us the story of when you first started getting involved in tech in Armenia?
Yeah, so I came in 1999, and I came in 1996, and then I came back in 1999. And at the time, there was a mass immigration of engineers and talented people, and so it was like really my desire and desire of a bunch of other people to kind of create employment, good employment, so that we wouldn't lose the skilled workforce. So in the summer of 1999, there was an event at the basement of the summer, or maybe spring. There was an event at the basement of the Armenian church in New York, where few people had organized an event that people from all over the place joined, which was really a call to kind of create companies or send projects or whatever to stem the flow of immigration.
Not just tech in general.
Primarily, I was in tech. Most people that were in the room were tech, but that was the primary sort of thrust. And I remember at that meeting, Berjai Vazian out of Boston, he was at that. I think at the time he was CEO of Yankee Group, or a very senior executive, and Berj basically stood in front of the door and said, nobody leaves unless you commit to creating jobs in Armenia. So pretty much everybody committed to doing something, either sending a project or. That was the beginning of the Armenian High Tech Council. So that was the formation of the Armenian High Tech Council, and so a bunch of us across the country, mostly Silicon Valley and LA, but also Boston. We organized a bunch of workshops, both here, and then we also brought people to America to train. That's when I sort of started shifting my whole career towards Armenia. It was a conscious decision to kind of be a part of building the country, building the ecosystem.
What were you doing at the time?
I was the vice president, general manager of a company called LowerMyBills.com, which was it became a very successful company, and they exited in 2005. So,
what was the first project that you implemented in Armenia?
With Lower My Bills, we sent some projects, and then we brought some people to it was kind of an outsource. That was the only outsourcing thing I've ever done. I don't really believe in outsourcing too much, but my first company I created was in 2000, and it was, Lower My Bills, so 2001, September 1 of 2001, 10 days before September 11th was my first company that I created, called Creation Point. And then Creation Point became Creation Point Systems, and then we evolved it, and it became Integrian, which VMware bought in 2010. So that was the first project. I guess that's the first company I created.
And it was based out of Armenia, or?
We had people here, and we had people in California.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then the first, big startup that you founded, and then it became to be have a large presence in Armenia, was Intellineer, I guess.
No, actually, so Integrian was the one that was the original one,
right.
And then that one was bought by VMware, which now I guess they have 300 some odd people
here.
And then the second one was the one after that was Icon Apps, which was the first company that was building apps on the iOS platform.
Mm-hmm.
So we sent the first 5 Armenians to the first Apple Developers Conference.
What year was that? Remember?
This was 2009. 2009, yeah. 2008, 9. And I remember vividly one of the 5 guys that I sent, he said, you're spending like $30,000 for this 1 week of thing. Why? What if we don't stay with the company? I said, it doesn't matter. You're gonna take energy, the technology back to Armenia. So that's been sort of my philosophy, which is, just build it, and wherever it ends up as long as it's in Armenia and people can, create companies and whatever. That's just been kind of my mission, which is just kind of help, inspire, push, whatever, encourage for people to start their own things and start their own companies and not be afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit about why you've decided to have your impact through entrepreneurship? You could have picked other avenues, I suppose.
I used to write plays like a long time ago when I was a kid. When I was in my 20s, I used to write plays and try. So I've staged 3 plays, and so that was the angle. And I helped with a couple of films, and it's like, okay, that's the angle. But later on, I've just realized that through entrepreneurship is one of those things where it just brings few things together, right? It brings that whole courage thing, right? Like you really have to be crazy. Like even now, you have to be crazy to start your company, but crazy in a good way, right? Because linear lives are quite boring. As far as for me, anyways, it was very boring. So that's one. The second thing is, it forces you to be a servant. Because if you can't take care of your customers, you go out of business very quickly, right? So it teaches you to listen, teaches you to be humble, teaches you to be of value rather than you're going to flip something,
Is that why it's desirable to be a servant? Because of those virtues that you obtain through it?
I mean, I think servant leadership, which is what I talk about all the time, is a choice, right? Plenty of people can do other things and not. I think the highest form of value creation and then also acknowledgement is service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just something that I think I learned from my parents, and it was always about, don't look down on people because you never know, you might end up there.
Right.
And that if you can help somebody, help lift somebody, you should, and you should study very hard and make something of yourself so that you can be of service. That was the talk, right? I think in societies where volunteerism is high, like a high percentage of the population feels like that they need to do something for their community. They actively give money, like there's a high level of trust. If not money, their time, which is I think is a higher form of charity than just giving money. You see, those societies tend to be softer. Softer meaning like it's easier to live in those societies,
right?
Because people tend to care for each other. So what I've tried to do in Armenia is just kind of bring my crazy humor and whatever, and just not take things too seriously and always go forward. Always just keep going forward, because life is organic. Life is not linear. It's not like you do this and then do this and then do this. All your best plans kind of go out the window when one crisis happens. So I think that form of self-reliance, but at the same time understand that we're interdependent on others. Like there is no such thing as the person did it on it by himself. That's all myth. It's just myth.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's had help.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that, let's say, if you're born in a family that provides you an education, or provides you food,
yeah.
Right? I mean, that comparative to somebody that didn't have that, of course, you're at an advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, like when you look at Armenia, sort of its future, a lot of it has to do with how we treat each other. Like on a day-to-day and those micro actions, like when you're in the cab, when you're at the restaurant, when you get a good service, do you actually acknowledge, right? And, like do you actually tell the guy or the gal, thank you for a great service? Because what you're doing is what you're trying to encourage and perpetuate is the positive, and you want to be treated that way. And let's say you do make a mistake, do you want people to just come down on you like a brick of walls? Or wall of bricks, I should say, or do you want them to just say, hey, you made this mistake, but arrangement top,
right?
I think that culture, I'm gonna
giving positive
go to
feedback.
my grave promoting, because it's just, I think that acknowledgement wise, we are very very stingy. Like, you go to a concert, right? They'll blow the roof off and like 8 people will clap. It's like, why did you even come?
What do you think that stems from here?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not a sociologist nor an anthropologist. All I know is it's sick and it's disgusting. If somebody's doing a good job, it's your job, your humanly job, to acknowledge.
Right.
Whether it's a waiter or somebody that shines shoes, or somebody that delivers your food, or somebody, your teacher, or whatever. I think we're just very, very stingy with acknowledgement in this society, and I think we're paying the price for it, because it's very conflict prone, right? So I see like the tension. It's like,
yeah.
So anyway,
one thing I'm curious about is if you look at sort of Armenia diaspora collaborations or efforts from that have stemmed in the diaspora to help Armenia's development, the tech community and sector seems to have had some real successes, either bringing diaspora-founded companies over to Armenia or bringing different organizations and events to Armenia. Is there something about tech or something about the community that you think was unique in this sense that helped lend tech better to being successful in this regards? Or maybe are there some lessons that you guys drew over the decades that other fields and communities can draw on to improve their collaborations?
I can't really put my finger on it. I think so most tech people have gotten some sort of technical training, right? Engineering training, which is like problem solution, right? You're kind of thinking about problems, then you actually devise solutions, right? Then you kind of go and try whether it worked or not. I don't want to say everybody, but most tech people are kind of data driven, right? They're like, what's working, what's not working.
Right.
They look at patterns. I also want to acknowledge that a lot of the founding group of people that wanted this dialogue and this sort of collaboration to work were like really good people, like good humans.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's one of the ingredients of anything to work. That the people that are working, they have to be good humans, right? Like they're committed, right? They're not like one mistaken or one problem or one failure and like, we're out of here, it's not worth it, it's not whatever. So I think that long-term mindedness was part and parcel of all the people that founded this sort of movement, and long-term. I think it also kind of made sense, right? Because you had technical work that people could work across the ways with each other. I remember, I have to tell this story, like first few years of my life in Armenia, we would send people with hard disks full of software because the internet was so expensive that it was cheaper to fly somebody here with, hard disk drives and then take code back that way. So when people say it's so hard, then I go, but compared to what?
Yeah. It's all relative.
Like you have to kind of think about it that way, right? So as far as like one thing that people don't realize is that diasporans have lives.
Right.
And they live in different societies, right? They have huge pressures. And I mean, when you live in Armenia, you have your own pressure, but it's Armenia, like everybody around you is Armenian. So obviously you're going to be more concerned with Armenia than like somewhere else, right? But let's say you live in LA. So you've got massive issues with LA itself, right? Traffic, expenses, violence, everything, right? Those are your daily reality is not Armenia. Right. So some portion of your focus is Armenia. I mean, even if people that actually care about Armenia, they'll take one, they can only take so much of their focus. That's why I try to spend so much time here, because it's like when you're there, that 12-hour time difference, no matter how much you are committed, it's hard, right? Try to like organize things. Like it's like 9 reschedules, Yeah. So that's one. Secondly is I think that we have to go from this culture of expectations. Like you expect things for people versus desires versus wanting, we want to do something and try to find, avenues where you can collaborate. I mean, I think everybody cares, of course, to a certain level. It's not like they take hot root and some proportion says they don't care. No, everybody cares.
Yeah.
The question is what bridges is Armenia creating? And Armenia has to create. Armenia is the state, right? Armenia is that it has some wherewithal, right? Like to do projects and stuff like that. I mean, diaspora in the purely diasporan sense. I mean, of course, I was born in Iran and then I was raised in the U.S. I kind of look at it like from very pragmatic perspectives, right? I go, okay, what can you do? Okay, all right, you can adopt a village, and like literally for like 20 years. So that's why I made my 40-year commitment in '99. I said I'm committing for 40 years. Because everybody that I was talking to were like, okay, we'll do this project, and I was like, and then, for me, the long-term commitment is very important because it's a country. It's not a.
It's not a community center or like a.
It takes time. It takes time to change minds. Like I've been talking about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People since '99, right? And I've brought, I don't know, maybe 500 copies of that book, and I've given it, as gifts to people. It's still like, I mean, like what? They ask questions, fundamental questions that is like, it's in the book. Like, it's not like I was born with it, you know?
Right. It's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, and it's also a matter of practice, right? You can't, I mean, like I just reread that book for the 9th time, I think, with my Cognaize team. And, believe it or not, it helps because, you get a common language of collaboration. You get a common language of service. You get common language of we're in it together, like, treat each other nicely. It's all in there. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing new, really. I mean, it's 5,000 years of, I mean, it's also in the Bible. It's also, if you go back that, it's in the, whatever the religion of the Egyptians were and whatever. It's
repackaged with
Plato, Socrates. Yeah. Like, you read it, like you read the Stoics, it's like, wow, this is new. No, it's not new. It's 5,000 years old. So you have to, it begs the question, what is up with humanity?
Right. Why can't they get a grasp of it?
It's not that they can't. It takes an effort. My conclusion is that human beings are lazy, including myself. So all things being equal, I'm not going to pick up a book and read it. I'll maybe watch it. Maybe I'll just go through, like, I mean, all things being equal, right? If there's no pressure or whatever. You're going to go from like one story to the other story on your, Instagram and Facebook. And, I have to be careful because, Armenia is like, that's the only channel of communication.
Yeah.
But it's terrible. It's terrible. It's like, why is it that we're still killing each other over stuff, But it is what it is. I don't think I'm going to be able to solve that problem.
But realizing that, how do you motivate your teams when you've come to that conclusion already?
Motivate myself first. I meditate every morning. I do my deciding on what I'm going to be every day. I go out, be love and light. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. But you just have to remind yourself, right? Because there's plenty of things to be happy about too, right? So find the things that you can be happy about.
No, it's not all bad.
I mean, recently I wrote something on Facebook. I said, like extreme optimism and extreme, pessimism, they're the same thing.
How so?
They both say don't do anything. Extreme optimists say, it'll be fine, so you don't take any action. Extreme pessimists say everything is shit and no matter what I do, it's everything's shit, so I'm not going to do anything. Yeah. It's the extreme realists in the middle that are like, okay, what's the problem?
What's the solution?
Let me take some action, take the solution, stuff like that. So if you surround yourself with those types of people, you'll be fine.
Okay.
In any condition, you'll be fine.
Okay. Let's get to your companies. Recently, you transitioned from as the CEO of Intelinair to the CEO of Cognaize. I think it's an interesting sort of story in the ecosystem because there aren't too many cases where an experienced exec takes over as a CEO role in a
maybe not here.
And here, yeah, exactly. It's a nice sort of maturation point for the ecosystem, maybe.
I mean, it's quite simple actually. Yeah. I personally believe that I personally don't have an interest in being the CEO for longer than 7 years. I think it's just I actually learned this from Dr. Vartan Grigoryan, who wrote My Road Home. He said, like, in his life, he was like anything that was like 7-8 years long as a project, he would just start agitating for like succession. And I think it's good for many reasons to have that sort of fresh mindset and stuff like that. In the case of IntelliNair, it's like I really felt like at the time for transition was there, and that we needed like a CEO that came from the ag industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't come from the ag industry. I'm not from the Midwest either. So it took 11 months to recruit Tim to become the CEO. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you he's making 10 times better decisions than I am. I was.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that. And then as far as Cognaize is concerned, Vahe and I have been friends for like 10 years. So maybe longer. He tried to kill me by giving me a bad bike. No. It's a running joke. He has like a really nice bike,
Yeah.
and I'm a novice. I wasn't a very good bicyclist. So he's been talking to me for a few years, and I wanted to spend more time in Armenia.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Cognaize does? What's the product you guys are building?
Cognaize delivers actionable insights from unstructured data. So think about like a bank. They get a lot of PDF documents, or like, let's say if they want to give you a loan or whatever, there's a lot of stuff that they have to go through, and they have to extract key information from different documents to then push to their models and say, we're going to give you a loan, and we're going to give you a loan at this rate or whatever. So multiply that by tens of millions of times, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a lot. It's a very human process. And so what Vahe and his team created is a set of AI steps, if you will, and very heavy duty with deep learning, which is the most prevalent thing that is being talked about right now, where they automate a lot of that process. So they do a series of steps that automates that. So instead of 5,000 humans typing information, it just extracts information, puts it in automatically. It's basically called data automation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying like data as your key asset that now you can mine key information that then you can make better decisions based on.
For example, if a company gets dozens of invoices a day, can Cognaize extract out the key information and input it into an ERP, for instance, for a company?
Yeah, that's a simple problem. There's many companies that do that. Simpler problem, I should say, because most invoices are pretty structured.
Right.
But we are dealing with like documents that are like 250 pages long. You have to go extract this thing from this table and that thing from that other table. So it's on the continuum of complexity. It's at the sort of like harder problem.
Yeah. What are some examples of organizations or companies that are using Cognaize today?
We don't discuss customers.
Got it.
No revenues, no number of people.
Got it. Understood. Coming back to IntelliNair for a second, one of the important pieces of Armenia's economy is agriculture. Did you guys have an experience trying to implement agro-tech projects in Armenia, selling products to big agriculture companies here?
There is really no big agricultural company in Armenia. I mean, the companies that we deal with have like thousands. Like this last year, we covered 10 million acres. All of Armenia is 6 million acres.
Right.
Including Artsakh, I think it's 6 million acres. So there's really no big agro business here, but there's a lot of good flora and fauna that could be documented. There could be a lot of environmental applications like river erosion or illegal sort of hex, or there's all sorts of. So Earth observation is a big field. It's not just agro. We've had multiple conversations with the government. They've on again, off again. We've never generated any revenues in Armenia. So
right. Is the issue that it would be impractical to sell to sort of local farmers? And
yeah, you can't.
Especially for IntelliNair scale.
Even for India, it's hard to sell to local. Because Armenia is a smallholder. It's called basically that's what it means. Like the average farmers, I think, it's not even half an acre.
Yeah.
So in those instances, like in India, the government, local governments, or even the national government buys these sort of technologies and then provides services to the farmers.
Right.
In big agro in countries like the U.S., Argentina, Brazil, of course, there's large companies that all of our companies are large companies in the U.S.
How big is the team here in Armenia now in Telners?
Don't divulge numbers.
Don't divulge those either. Got it.
Maybe after exit or something.
Got it.
And there's a practical reason, right, for that, right? I mean, obviously, it's, people can count how much money you have, how much money did you raise, how many people do you have, and they can make. And I don't want to make it easier for our competition. Yeah. But if you ask, I mean, unfortunately, Yerevan is terrible with regards to keeping secrets. But
I'll find out some.
I won't offer it.
Right. But I'll find some. Got it. Al, it's always interesting to hear your insights from your career. What advice would you give to young people sort of starting out in their careers now?
Don't listen to people my age. Okay. That would be advice number one. No, I think there's a lot of obsolete knowledge, but there are things that are time tested and time. I would say read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People as soon as you can and actually discuss it, because this is something that it wasn't like one person's idea. The guy studied like hundreds of other books and success, literature from thousands of years ago through the Bible to whatever, and he came up with these habits that then he went and interviewed and validated, right? It's the surest way from first becoming a good, in my opinion, like a good person, like you're actually, that you connect how you are with yourself and your people around you, and that you are, habit one is like be proactive, right? Like don't be shy, speak up, go forward, start things. So that would be advice number one.
Is that your favorite habit from the 7?
My favorite, I mean, there's no favorite, they're all favorites, but my favorite one is seek win-win. Like I'm always looking for a win-win solution.
Oh, okay.
I'm never looking like, let me maximize for myself, because it just never works anyway. It's not sustainable. Like think about just even your own personal relationships, your wife, your kids, cousins, aunts, uncles, parents. Like think about times where you try to maximize for yourself and you know that it's a detriment for the other person. Just never sustains. Yeah, you won that one battle, but you lost the war. So it's always going back and saying, yes, of course you have your own goals and whatever, but it doesn't mean that you getting your goals, somebody else has to lose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a zero-sum game. And if you look at pretty much all human conflict, what is all human conflict about? All human conflict. What's the source of it? Ignorance. There's only one problem. Every other problem is a version of that, derivative of that one problem, which is ignorance. Mm. Like if you think you're going to sustain by cheating somebody or by being mean to somebody on a long-term basis, and you think you're going to win on a long-term, you're an idiot. You're like a literal idiot. And I think that's where it's like, does it feel good?
Right.
And if you were on the other side, would you take that deal? I mean, it goes from all human relationships. In my opinion, maybe I'm simplifying everything into a book, but life might be much, much more organic and complex than that. But it's not that really, right? I mean, think about it. All over the place, all over the world you go. It's the same thing.
They're recognizable patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. Treat people like the way you want to be treated.
That's a good rule. My last question. Where do you hope to see Cognaize in the next 5 to 10 years?
Cognaize has an opportunity to, we're doing a lot of original research in AI, and our founder Vahe Andonians and the team they're serious researchers. Like they're very serious about AI. And serious meaning like they're putting a lot of time. They love what they're doing. My hope is that Cognaize would have as big a market cap as. No, actually, I want Armenia's GDP to be bigger. No, but hey, it could be like we're a major contributor to that, right?
Yeah.
I think we're very lucky because we've got companies like Service Titan, Pixar, and others that, again, just based on people with their drives and their ability to kind of entice and encourage others, inspire others. So why not? We have an opportunity. The thing is that one thing that I'm actively working on is to get tech people to like really take on the education problem in Armenia. And I say the education problem because it's multifaceted. But if you think about, let's say 20,000 competent IT people that we have, if each of them just adopted 5 kids not adopted, like bring into their homes, but
Sponsored.
beyond sponsors, like big brother, big sister sort of type thing, where you're mentoring people across the years, not just on like some subject, right?
Right.
So if you think about, like, if we could quadruple or quintuple our competent AI workforce, the country will be unrecognizable. Like, we'll go from whatever, $16-17 billion of GDP to probably $50 billion of GDP. And that changes everything, right? Because now it's not just the IT that's changing. It changes everything. Changes transportation, changes healthcare, changes, you name it, like changes everything, right? So that would be my hope for Cognaize to be we are, and we will continue to become more and more serious about that aspect of our efforts.
Yeah, I wish you a lot of luck with that, and I hope we see the ripple effects of that impact on the country.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us all.